Welcome to another episode of InRange. What I have sitting in front of me here is the Desert Tech Trek-22 Ruger 1022 Bullpup conversion kit with, of course, a Ruger 1022 in it. Now, I know some of you out there are Ruger 1022 purists, and this may not be for you, but if you have an open mind, I think you should really look at this because this has really turned a boring 1022 into something really fun, for me at least, and I think it would for a lot of you in the audience as well. There are other advantages besides the fact that it becomes, of course, a shorter overall length, which let me demonstrate that here. This is a standard Ruger 1022 stock. In fact, that's the one that this gun came out of. And if we line it up with the ejection port, you'll see how much shorter this conversion kit turns this gun into in terms of overall length. In fact, the Ruger stock by itself has a longer overall length than the entire gun in the Bullpup conversion kit. So yes, it makes it much shorter and much easier to handle, and it is very easy to install, which I'll get to in a little bit. On top of that, it makes it much more modular, easy to install optics. We have a Picatinny rail right here, and I've put this Trijicon 1-4 on there. A little bit of overkill, but it actually works really well on this gun. I put a little piece of pick rail here under this M-lock slot, so I could put a Harris bipod, and you have M-lock slots on the left and right for whatever other accessories you might want. On top of that, there's molded in 2 magazine ports, so you can have 2 10-round Ruger magazines right here, and of course one in the gun for a total of 30. Or if you're getting extravagant, you could start with one of these, and then have 2 10-round reloads here, whether you're plinking, hunting, or just having fun in the field. There is a transfer bar here, which of course transfers to the fire control group. And I will say that I am very surprised that it really doesn't change the trigger press much at all. In fact, I find it to be just fine. For what a Ruger 1022 is, the trigger and the press on this Trek-22 is really not a concern whatsoever, even in a bullpup configuration. So this has taken something for me that normally isn't really my bag and actually turned it into something really fun. So let's go ahead and focus the camera down and I'll show you what the installation looks like. So here's what we got. This is the original Ruger 1022 stock. If you have a regular Ruger, it probably came in something like this or wood. There's this little barrel band and 2 screws that you take out. Take the screws out, loosen the barrel band, pull it off, and then the whole action just comes right out of the stock. And then this is your Desert Tech kit. So you just open up the 2 halves of the clamshell. There's a bag full of little parts and doodads and screws to make this all go together. We don't need to show that here. And then this is the transfer bar, which I've already put in place. This goes here. There's normally a spring right here. I don't have the spring on the video because it would sometimes bounce out if you just weren't assembling it. So there's a spring here that has a reset. And then this is your transfer. Really straightforward. This, of course, goes in front of the trigger on the actual Ruger itself. So once again, to demonstrate the overall length, the trigger guard would be right here, and that would be like right that. So that goes to show you how much shorter this actually makes your Ruger 1022. So you line up the action in here, just it fits right in like a glove. You make sure that the transfer bar is in front of the trigger of your action. You make sure the spring's on there. You put this half on top of that half, and then you literally just screw it all together. At that point, you're done, and you now have a Trek-22 Bullpup converted Ruger 1022. It's really easy. It took me about, really, if you knew what you're doing, you did it a bunch of times, you could probably do it in 20 minutes. It took me 30 minutes because I screwed one thing up once. I didn't have the spring lined up, but that's not that big a deal. Just took it off, put it back together. It took me about 30 minutes, and I was done and ready to go and out shooting at the range. So let's go ahead and take this baby out and show you some shooting with it. So one thing that I didn't mention earlier in the video is this comes in 3 different colors: gray, flat dark earth, which is the clamshell you saw earlier in the video, and OD green. So whatever your preference is, there you go. Now let's go ahead and take one of the magazines out of this cool little buttstock storage compartment. I think that's really neat. Load it up, chamber around. Now the safety's still here at the rear of the fire control group because that's where the fire control group really is. This is just a trigger to a transfer bar. So you have to remember the safety's in the rear. And let's go ahead and shoot a little bit. That's my first magazine. Go ahead and eject that. Put that in here. Grab our next mag. And we got 10 more rounds. Low recoil, low noise, a lot of fun. Takes a standard 1022, makes it space age, gives you the ability to mount an optic, a bipod, lights, whatever accessories you might want. Lets you store extra magazines in the buttstock, and it's not very expensive. And since it's not a firearm, you can go to Desert Tech's website and order one right now. It'll come right to your door, and then you can turn your 1022 into this space-age cool little bullpup. Actually, it even lightens the trigger press, believe it or not. Something about the angle of how they've done the transfer bar, believe it or not, I think it actually improves the trigger press. They claimed it did, and now that I'm shooting it, I don't disagree. I do want to thank Desert Tech. They did ship me this unit for free, so I have to allow the audience to know that in full disclosure. But I really do like it. I enjoy it. I think it's a lot of fun. I wouldn't tell you otherwise. That's just how InRange works. But all the ammunition, the time to do this video, etc., is all because of supporters like you out there via Patreon and Utreon. If you already are one, thank you. If you'd like to consider it, please do. But if you can't understand, just share the video with your friends. And if nothing else, go pick up a Trek-22. Turns your 1022 into something really cool. I'm having a lot of fun with this. I'm going to shoot some more.